If people don't care about climate change, the best way to get them on board is to scare the pants off them, right? I'm a climate scientist, and I have to be honest, what I study can be pretty scary and alarming even to me. All of that coal and oil and gas that we've been digging up and burning over the past few hundred years, it's upsetting the balance of the Earth's natural carbon cycle, putting us all at risk. Sure, there have been warmer and colder times before, but as far back as we can look, and through paleoclimate records we're able to look back millions of years, this much carbon has never gone into the atmosphere this quickly. We are conducting an unprecedented experiment with our planet. And the faster things change, the greater the risks of some really nasty surprises, like Greenland destabilizing and totally melting, which would raise sea level by 7 meters, that's 24 feet. Or thawing permafrost in the Arctic that could lead to massive releases of methane, a powerful heat-trapping gas, into the atmosphere that could equal or surpass the direct impacts of burning fossil fuels. Not only that, but we scientists have a well-known problem. We tend to err on the side of least drama. Yes, for real. A study that compared climate predictions with what really happened over the last few decades showed that the scientific community, and in particular big assessments like the IPCC, have a systematic tendency to underestimate observed changes. Why? Because despite what you may have heard, we scientists are naturally very cautious. We don't like to say something is so unless we are very, very, very sure it's going to happen, like 99% sure. And we absolutely hate being called alarmist. So that means these days we'd prefer to be 99.9% sure about anything before we open our mouths. Now, on the other hand, to be the devil's advocate here, not all the alarming stories about climate change that we've seen in the movies and heard in the media are true. Do you remember that old movie called The Day After Tomorrow, where the whole world froze over? Well, the plot was loosely based on the fact that, yes, in a warmer world, the ocean's thermohaline circulation that transports heat around the globe could slow and even maybe eventually shut down. But even if that did happen, it wouldn't occur overnight like in the movie, and it certainly wouldn't encase the entire world in ice. If anything, it would reduce global warming over Europe by a few degrees, which might even be welcome by then, while heating up the tropics even more. A few years back, there were news stories talking about how methane hydrates in the continental shelf under the Arctic Ocean were thawing. If they got into the atmosphere, they could cause some $60 trillion worth of warming. But thankfully, although the hydrates are certainly real, we don't yet have any scientific evidence that any more methane is leaking out of the continental shelves now than it was before. Climate change might not be quite as scary as it's sometimes portrayed in the media, but really, it still is scary enough. We are talking about the greatest humanitarian crisis of our time. The planet will survive, it is our civilization that's at risk. So many well-meaning communicators say, let's just scare people. Let's just focus on the worst true things that we know. And believe me, there are plenty of real ones. Then surely we'll change people's hearts and minds and spur them to action, right? Well, here's the problem. Doomsday messaging just doesn't work. And here's a couple of reasons why. The first reason is because it overwhelms us with fear and anxiety and despair. And those emotions are more conducive to a knee-jerk reaction, which could include just getting back in bed and pulling the covers over our heads, than long-term sustained action. We do not accept climate change because we wish to avoid the anxiety it generates. George Marshall writes in his book, Don't Even Think About It, Why Our Brains Are Wired to Ignore Climate Change. And psychologist Renee Lertzman goes even further, pointing out that when we talk about climate and energy, what we're talking about can challenge some of our most deeply held beliefs and fears, which we typically deal with by avoiding them. As humans, we're prone to tuning out repeated bad messages if they don't relate directly to our lives and our backyards. or if we feel like fixing them would be even worse for us personally than letting them run their course. Also, our emotional bandwidth is limited. That's why, long-term, we need hope, not fear. Fear either turns people off or it makes them anxious and scared. And people who are anxious and alarmed can't remain alarmed forever. Eventually, we just overload and check out. Not only that, but what good does it do any of us if we're being warned about a terrible problem, but we don't feel like there's anything that we can do to fix it? This is the second reason why doomsday messaging often doesn't work. You may remember I've talked before on these videos about how facts aren't enough for many of us to change our minds about climate change. But there's more to it than that. We don't like being told about a problem if we feel like there's nothing we can do to fix it. We don't just need generic hope, we want specific hope. We want to know, what else can I do? Is anyone else doing it? Is it possible to fix this thing, or is it just a pipe dream? That's why I've had to educate myself on what type of solutions there are out there that are affordable and accessible, and most importantly, viable. Because the social science research has shown that feeling like we can be part of the fix is a much more effective way to change our minds about the reality of a problem than just yammering on endlessly about the problem. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be aware of or talk about the risks. Of course we should. One of the most important things to understand about climate change is how it will affect us in the places where we live. That's what my research is all about. But what I am saying is that we need to understand both the problems we face and the ways that we can fix them. And the reality is that when we deliberately look around for hope, we can find it. I do, and I post what I find on my Facebook page often. Whether it's record-breaking low prices for solar energy, cool new technology, or inspirational stories of people doing unexpected things here or on the other side of the world. By working together, we can find hope, not fear, the power to act and not despair. And together, we can do something about this enormous global problem that is climate change. The foundation for the type of long-term sustained action we need to solve this problem isn't doomsday messaging. It's the hope for a better future for all of us. Thank you for watching Global Weirding. Be sure to check out globalweirdingseries.com every other Wednesday for a new episode. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page, like us on Facebook, and follow me on Twitter. Have a question about climate change? We want to hear it. We'll have a live Q&A on our Facebook page every other Thursday at 7 p.m. Central. See you next time.